I'm going to speak about the Glenn Beck situation and reach out to him in just a moment. There's a lot of videos online made by real conservatives and libertarians about how disingenuous Glenn Beck is. But one I saw last week really boiled it down well, demonizing Ron Paul, pushing for the banker bailout takeover bill, which he now claims he's against, and just other disingenuous things he's done. So I think this sets the stage for some of you that may not remember all of his deception for what I'm going to cover when we come back. But here's the video. Glenn Beck is a neocon, not a libertarian.
I'm a dope. I'm a rodeo clown. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I believe so deeply in our Constitution.
I was for the Patriot Act.
You know that I am actually a libertarian at heart. I think the bailout is the right thing to do. I believe so deeply in our Constitution. I was for the Patriot Act. You know that I am actually a libertarian at heart. The $700 billion that you're hearing about now is not only, I believe, necessary, it is also not nearly enough.
There was one guy last year that was Ron Paul. When you were on CNN, you would act like he was kind of crazy, kooky guy. And
I still act like he's crazy, kooky guy.
Well,
the Ron Paul Revolution. I think it's meant to be a catchy slogan, but I fear some of his fringe supporters are taking the word revolution too literally.
Hey, Glenn, real quick, how did you and your network benefit from associating Ron Paul supporters with domestic terrorism?
When you were escorted out after asking him your question, Glenn Beck stopped, turned to the crowd, and started applauding.
What you're about to hear is the fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
The man has total credence when it comes to the economy. The man does not necessarily have credence when it comes to the war on terror.
And Tim there suggests that we think of the economy, but not in foreign policy. You can't do that. They're one and the same. That's where all the money's going.
If you've seen any of the stuff that Glenn Beck has been doing,
he's on occasion is a demagogue.
To religious fanatics that are decapitating people. Does Hitler come to mind? For the love of our children. And they are preparing a Holocaust, the second Holocaust.
He has been pretty discourteous.
What you're about to hear is the fusion of entertainment and enlightenment.
Earlier today, I had the opportunity to sit down in the Oval Office with the President of the United States. President Bush is a man who personally feels the pain of every lost soldier. I can tell you that the President has incredible passion and resolve.
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere.
That is the real story tonight. Back in a minute.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think Lou Dobbs is perfect, but I respect him, and I think he's for real and believes in what he's doing. I understand that Pat Buchanan sometimes plays politics, is suddenly pro-war and then against the war. But he's not there to be a controlled opposition, meant to be a Pied Piper to lead the patriot movement astray. And that's the issue with Glenn Beck, is that I know his history, and I've seen the dangerous scripts that he's reading from over the last two and a half years as coming directly from the bowels of the Pentagon and the PSYOP machine. And that is what concerns me so much about Glenn Beck, is that he is clearly being put forward as more than just the heir apparent to Rush Limbaugh. He is being set up as the leader of the opposition against all things Obama, so that he can lead the opposition astray when the time comes. And we know that's the case because he's done that time and time again in the past. The establishment isn't stupid. They know that government takeover of healthcare is going to be unpopular. They know that youth brigades and national compulsory service, which has been introduced as legislation and called for by the White House Chief of Staff and called for by the president, compulsory service and a new domestic military. They know that's going to be unpopular. So they are putting Glenn Beck up there as the leader of that opposition so that at key points he can lead people astray. But I'm going to go over the evidence of that in a moment. I first want to speak to Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck, you brag that you've got a $50 million contract. And I think that's great for you. Wonderful. And I want to be clear here. I'm not attacking you because you're well known on TV and because you have a big paycheck. You are a very talented radio host. I don't know how you do 3 hours a day and then go get ready for that big TV show. I mean, I know it must be exhausting. And you pull it off very well, and I admire your talent. But being somewhat of a novice of history, I also admire the talent of Benedict Arnold, one of our better generals in the Revolutionary War. And I don't attack people lightly. Even though I disagree with a lot of things Michael Savage does, I defend his right to say it. And when he was getting censored, I stood up for him. When Van Jones was calling for your firing, Glenn, I stood up for you. When people have tried to pull down Rush Limbaugh as a symbol of free speech and talk radio, I've defended Limbaugh. Even though I know he's a drug-addled, arrogant deceiver who has led conservatives astray. Because I understand the part you're playing. You're meant to discredit true conservatism and libertarianism. And you're meant to be a ringer in this fight as the global corporate state socializes the wealth in this country so they can more easily extract it offshore. But Glenn, I want to talk directly to you right now. And I want to tell you that history is what matters. And being on the right side of history is what is important. And you don't want your grandchildren and great-grandchildren to look back on you as a Benedict Arnold, as a traitor. You don't want people to look back on you as a media whore. You don't want people to look back on what you're doing now as being loyal opposition. I understand you were hired because you're a slick presenter. I understand you were hired because of your slick dual message to discredit and polarize the conservative movement for the left, to dress up in lederhosen and clearly fake cry and then admit you're fake crying, to further convince the left that the right is insane. But at the same time, you are there to lead conservatives and libertarians and people that were waking up from my show and waking up to the full global system, the world government, the New World Order. You're meant to talk about just enough of that to get them to then feel like their revolutionary energies against this tyranny are being expressed, so they spend their time and energy on your 9/12 project instead of really going out and taking this country back. Your whole 9/12 project is about remembering 9/12 and remembering the police state and how good the Patriot Act is and remembering how giving up our liberties is good and remembering how good it was to believe the lie that Saddam had WMDs and yellow cake. It's about following that neocon agenda, which Obama is continuing. You know, Glenn Beck attacks Obama and says he's pulling our troops out of the Middle East. He wants al-Qaeda to attack us, giving him left cover. The truth is, Obama has taken 50,000 troops out of Iraq and moved them to Afghanistan, and then moved 50,000 plus more contractors into Iraq, boosting the total number of troops. So when you come out and call him a communist, he's not a communist. He got 4 times the money John McCain did. Because John McCain wasn't the heir apparent. He wasn't the corporate, slick Harvard person. And I'm not saying vote for John McCain. I'm saying we didn't really have a choice. The media hyped Coca-Cola president. The media president was Barack H. Obama. And so he was the heir apparent. He is the corporate president. But see, Glenn Beck is meant to make conservatives not shift out of the left-right paradigm. He's meant to keep them in that paradigm and to see Obama as this big leftist, when really he's just a statist looting us for offshore banks. $23.7 trillion has been stolen by the bipartisan group under Bush and Obama to offshore banks.